Welcome to another edition of the Inspired Stories podcast, where leaders share their experiences so we can learn from their successes and be inspired by how they've overcome adversity. My name is Anthony Codispoti, and today's guest is Jessica McLean. She is the Chief Financial Officer at Girl Scouts Nation's Capital, a nonprofit organization dedicated to empowering youth through leadership and community services across the Washington, D.C. area. Since its establishment in 1963, Girl Scouts Nation's Capital has grown to serve thousands, offering programs that build youth to encourage confidence, courage, and character that make the world a better place. Jessica brings a wealth of finance and management expertise with several years in the nonprofit sector. She previously served as the controller for Brand USA and held leadership roles at Grant Thornton and Williams Adley and Company, DC. Throughout her career, Jessica has optimized financial processes, championed operational excellence, and helped drive impactful community outreach. Now, before we get into all that good stuff, today's episode is brought to you by my company, Add Back Benefits Agency, where we offer very specific and unique employee benefits that are both great for your team and fiscally optimized for your bottom line. One recent client was able to add over $900 per employee per year in extra net profits by implementing one of our innovative programs. Results vary for each company, and some organizations may not be eligible. To find out if your company qualifies, contact us today at addbackbenefits.com. All right, back to our guest today, the CFO at Girl Scouts Nation's Capital, Jessica McLean. Thanks for making the time to share your story today.
I appreciate the opportunity, Anthony, and I'm excited about our discussion this afternoon.
Well, let's jump right into it then, Jessica. So right out of college, you had roles at some pretty big companies, including KPMG and IBM. What were those early experiences like, and how did it help prepare you for some of your higher roles to come?
Absolutely. I had the amazing opportunity to work at some amazing organizations early on in my career, just right out of college. And they really laid the foundation for the work that I even do now. And at KPMG, in my time in public accounting, I got to work with all types of clients across various industries and various aspects, and working to address their needs as our client. Had learned adaptability. I had to learn the ability to build trust with our clients as well. At my time at IBM, I was doing a lot of audit readiness type work. So I'm thinking through system changes, process changes, and process improvements. And the time at both of those organizations, they definitely pushed my analytical thinking, my strategic thinking, but also was very client focused in the work that we did. And these are things that I carry with me in my role even currently today.
And I understand you also had some time. Well, obviously now you're in the nonprofit space. Were you at any other nonprofits before joining Girl Scouts?
Yes, I was at Brand USA, which is a 501c6 association. They are the marketing organization for international travelers to come to America.
I'm not familiar with that designation, 501c6.
501c6. So when people think
C6.
of nonprofits, right, there's different types. Correct. And so your C6s are more association organizations. They're usually supporting business organizations within a various sector. So whether it's travel, whether it's staffing, whether it's hotel and tourism, those are your C6 organizations. Where your C3, which is where I am at Girl Scouts, are more about supporting members and supporting a particular need of a group of individuals.
Okay. And so how have you found the work at nonprofits, whether the C3 or the C6, to compare to work at some of the bigger for-profit companies that you were at?
I would say the nonprofit space, it has given me, it's been very meaningful for me working in that space. I will say when I left public accounting specifically, I wanted to do work that had an impact. Social impact, had a positive impact on people, on organizations. And that's what really drew me to the nonprofit space after I left public accounting. So it definitely fills my cup and gives me a huge sense of purpose.
And how about the day-to-day, like sort of the inner workings? Is there sort of a difference in some of the tasks that you're doing?
I would say overall, I love to say that when I hear people talk about nonprofit, it is a tax status. Nonprofits are still a business. Many of the risk, many of the work, the things that I do on a day-to-day basis are not much different from for-profit counterparts in other areas. There's actually more level of higher level of complexity in the nonprofit space when you're talking about working with donors and funders and different types of donors and funders, the reporting that comes behind that. But I am just as concerned about hiring great talent, inflation, tariffs. Those are the same things that I think about even in the nonprofit space.
How do tariffs affect Girl Scouts?
So Girl Scouts, our organization, we have retail sales. We have 4 brick and mortar stores, but also an online presence. Well, the things that we sell, of course, we have to pay for the inventory. And so the cost of those items have gone up as well. And so again, many of the same challenges that for-profit CFOs encounter are the same ones that I encounter as well.
Well, I'm glad you kind of touched on that, Jessica, because I do think there's sort of this misperception that nonprofits are actually trying to lose money or trying really hard to make sure that at the end of the day, the books are just barely even. Can you speak to that a little bit?
Oh gosh, that was something I had to wrap my head around coming into the nonprofit space. And it's something I talk about. Again, nonprofit is just the tax status that we have with the IRS. That is not our business model. We need to have profits. That's how we invest specifically at Girl Scouts, that's how we invest in our members, investing in the programming, our volunteers, that we have adequate cash reserves. So it is very important that we have a profit, but it's not about just maximizing, It's not the number one purpose in what we do. We need to have profits, but our purpose is to serve, again, our youth members, because we're growing young people of courage, confidence, and character, and it takes money to do that.
Mm-hmm. And so when you do have a profit, then what happens to that money? It doesn't go to shareholders because there aren't any.
No, it's actually reinvested back within the organization. Some of it, of course, is put away for reserves. I mean, we've had COVID. I mean, some of the economic ups and downs that we've encountered, well, you have to have the financial foundation to be able to weather those. But it's allowed us to help grow what we're offering. Again, we are really about supporting our members and ensuring that our Girl Scouts have high quality programming. Well, we make those investments from the money that we bring in.
So tell us, Jessica, how the opportunity to join Girl Scouts came about.
Absolutely. So it's interesting, not something I went looking for, but when I was at Brand USA, I was a controller at the time. And I said, if I want to be a CFO one day, what will it take to get there? And so I signed up for CFO job listings, nonprofit ones specifically on LinkedIn, and just read them when they came in, just to understand the experience that I needed to get there one day. Well, I was looking and the Girl Scouts opportunity showed up. And I've read the job description and the requirements, responsibilities. And I said, wow, I think I could do this job. And it was really a touching moment for me because I grew up as a Girl Scout in this particular council myself.
Oh, is that right?
Yes, it was actually like circling back home. And so I went through the interview process with some presentations and some other work as well. And here I am almost 4 years later.
And so tell us, what does the day-to-day work of a CFO at Girl Scouts Nation's capital look like?
Oh, wow. So it depends on the time of year. No day is ever the same. So whether I'm dealing with, in December, we're dealing with our financial statement audit. So we're working with our auditors to do that. If it's cookie season, part of my responsibilities is having strategic oversight of our cookie program. So in the spring, that's a lot of time is spent there. Again, making sure our girls have the cookies they're selling and everything that they need to be successful. Whether it's in the spring as well, we're doing our budget. So it's budget season at the time, retirement plan on all that's going on. So there is no day that is consistent. Sometimes what's going on controls what happens for me that day. But I think that makes it interesting and exciting at the same time.
So let's pretend for a moment that there may be a listener who is not familiar with the Girl Scouts, or this is even more realistic. I think most people have heard of the Girl Scouts,
yes,
but maybe they don't understand what actually happens inside the Girl Scouts. Can you kind of paint a picture for us, the age groups that you're serving, the types of programming that's available?
Absolutely. So I always like to start by saying, the mission of Girl Scouts, we are building youth of courage, confidence, and character that are going to make the world a better place. I mean, you can't have this world without Girl Scouts. And we're doing that through outdoor adventure, teaching life skills, STEM, entrepreneurship. There's many ways. And one thing I love to say about Girl Scouts, there's no one way to have a Girl Scout experience. I've talked with many Girl Scouts and they've talked about they found their passion and something that they love within Girl Scouts, whether it is camping, being outdoors, arts, STEM, technology. There's something there for everyone. And I think that is what we need. We're also making people, young people, helping them to grow to be community minded, helping them to be thoughtful and kind. It's also a part of what we do. So yes, we're making the future generations of leaders, but there's also that piece of kind, thoughtful, and community minded individuals. And so we're offering programming. I mean, our Girl Scouts are out earning higher awards, which is, some people know the Eagle Scout Award that Boy Scouts has, but we have ours as well. And
what is yours called?
We have, well, there's different levels. You have your bronze, silver, and gold being the highest. And they're out here doing some of the most amazing projects. Like, I was not thinking of some of these things as a teenager, making dog parks. I mean, talking about going to space. I mean, it is out of this world, the project that our Girl Scouts come up with. And we're serving young people from kindergarten up to 12th grade.
Now, man, it's been years, but I remember as a kid, that a lot of the girls I knew, they started out as brownies, and then brownies went into Girl Scouts. Is that still a thing? And are brownies under the Girl Scouts umbrella?
Yes. So right now you can start off as a daisy, which starts off at kindergarten. There's your brownies, your juniors, cadets, ambassadors, seniors, and again, takes you from kindergarten all the way to 12th grade. And again, we've seen Girl Scouts who maybe started off and had one love with part of Girl Scouts, and then it shifted later on. But there's a way to make the Girl Scout experience what's best for that particular child.
And how many women and young girls are you helping in this program in any given year?
About 40,000. We are the largest Girl Scout council in the country based on number of members, 40,000. But I always love to say it is possible because of our volunteers. 35,000 volunteers. They are the ones, boots on the ground, for delivering the programming that our Girl Scouts need. And so it's because of them that we're able to do that. And so they are the lifeblood. They really are, to serve that many Girl Scouts.
And are these mostly parents?
Yeah, a lot of it are parents. Some of our volunteers are, maybe their own child has gone through Girl Scouts and they still want to be connected, and they have been connected for decades. And I truly say they are the lifeblood of what we do. Our job at the council is to support our volunteers who are delivering the programming.
We talked a little bit about the difference between for-profit, non-for-profit work. What was maybe the biggest challenge in kind of making that transition?
One of the biggest ones I would say is helping people understand that the work that we do, again, that our tax status, it means nonprofit, but not how we operate and how we should think, how we should operate. That we are a business, excuse me. So that has been part of the challenging piece, but also it's unfortunate that nonprofits have the mantra of doing more with less. And it brings on a scarcity mindset and not starting from a place of abundance, even with the terminology and the wording that's used. It's always a can or shouldn't, or we need to do, we got to do so much more, but we have less. You don't hear the for-profit world talking that way. They figure out how to get more. And that's what nonprofits need to do. And that's what we're going to do. I something I talk about a lot wherever I can and share. Profits are okay and profits are needed in our space. It's just, again, that isn't the sole driver of what we do on a day-to-day basis.
So as a nonprofit, do you think about that more from how do we get more sponsors, more donors, more kind of outside funding? Or do you think of it in terms of how do we generate more revenue from within in sort of the ways that maybe a for-profit company would think about? Like, how do we sell more cookies, or how do we have more events like selling cookies that can generate revenue?
All of it. Okay. We're thinking about all of it, right? We have, donors and funders who believe in our mission, who believe in what we do, and have supported us for many, many years financially. We offer programming. There's fees tied to some of that. So there's multiple ways that we're working to bring in that revenue. But again, it's being reinvested back within the organization to be able to ensure we're offering quality programming, not just any program, quality. And that is of the utmost importance.
Now, Girl Scouts emphasizes courage. Make sure I get this correct.
Yes.
Confidence and character. What special meaning do those values have for you, Jessica?
Wow. Those three words, and they have their own meaning, but the importance of them. And I think about courage. I think it from the perspective of taking bold steps. I mean, whether it's a Girl Scout doing zip lining for the first time, it takes courage to do that. I'm not sure if I can even do it. Um, getting in a kayak and getting out there. I'm not sure if I could do that either. But being able to take a step when there's a level of uncertainty there is something that we're working to build. Confidence, believing in your voice, believing in who you are and your own self-worth is important. And that isn't something that just comes with you as a child. It's something that we're building because it stays with you through adulthood. But what I think is so important is the character piece, that you're able to do the right thing and you're doing the right thing even when no one is watching. Ethics, integrity are so important again. So yes, we're building those future leaders, but it's also about good people is what we're looking for as well.
Jessica, I want to take a few minutes and kind of dive into some of the financial accomplishments, if you will, that you've been a part of there at Girl Scouts. You shortened the council's financial closing periods. First, explain what that means, and then how did you accomplish that?
So one of the things I did when I first came into the organization, I just did a lot of just listening. A lot of listening, just watching, listening. Didn't run in and come in, try to make a lot of changes to things. But one thing I noticed when I heard closing the books, so those in the accounting world understand closing the books each month. A lot of times we have to present financials to a board or a finance committee on a monthly basis. And it was taking about 25 to 30 days to do that.
Wow.
And I said, wow, that's pretty long. Because by the time you get that done, you're into the next month and it just isn't, the information isn't relevant as you get to that point. And so one of the things I did was ensure that the team members had adequate training on the accounting software. The accounting system had been implemented about 5 or 6 years when I came in, but no one had training on it.
What was the system?
Sage Intacct is what we went in and implemented. I think it was from QuickBooks to Intacct prior to my arrival. So getting the training to understand the capabilities of the system. Number two, we sat down with our consultant and say, tell me all the modules and the enhancements that we haven't implemented as well. Because there was things I was seeing. I'm like, why are we doing it this way when I know the system can do it? So we implemented that as well. And then just looked at the process of closing, ensuring we had a checklist that didn't have redundancies, checklists that didn't have us doing things that were no longer at that point obsolete. Even changing the communication with other departments of the timing where we need information from them to close the books timely. So we went from about 30 days, but we can do it about 15 or so. I still want to do some more work in that area, but a drastic shift to be able to get financial information in a more timely manner.
What was the single biggest lever you pulled to shave off the most number of days there? I have to imagine it was probably like we fixed this, we instituted that, like we get a day here, or we get an extra day here, but was there one lever that was like really big and you got a few days out of it?
I'd have to say the enhancements to the system. And so one example was we were still approving journal entries. I mean, physically, I was signing them via Adobe on paper, quote unquote. Well, all of that can be done in the system by clicking a button. And so by the time you would put it together, send it to me, I sign the paper, you take it back, upload it. I mean, that time, and then we're making sure you don't miss anything. That was probably one of the biggest levers. Was that piece of it. There's some other ones that we did, but just making those tweaks and like I mentioned, adding them up saved a significant time.
And so brass tacks, how does shortening the closing period from 30 days to 15 days help the organization? What does that allow you to do that you couldn't before?
Part of it is getting timely, relevant financial information. At some point, if the information isn't coming in timely, it serves no purpose. So one, being able to get an idea of, okay, we thought we were heading some way with our fees in this area, our expenses in this particular area. I can see a lot sooner. And if we need to pivot or make a change, or there's additional information we need to communicate to one of our committees or our board as well, because I'm literally getting it that much sooner. We're also able to do a more timely review. We're reviewing financials like, oh, that looks off. I think we maybe made an error in a journal entry that we need to address or need to fix. And so by shortening it, the team now has time to work on other projects. They're not just closing the books on a day-to-day basis.
What kind of other projects did that open your staff up to?
One of the things we had recently done was writing some policies and procedures. We hadn't done that in some areas. We recently finally went live on the FP&A platform as well. even looking at making other enhancements and changes to other areas with our credit card approvals, using the app instead of having to just go online and look at a website, getting an app implemented. I mean, so there's other time to now do some more of that higher level work or strategic thinking that streamlines other areas as well.
What is FP&A software?
Sure. So financial planning and analysis. And we recently did an implementation. So we're just now kind of getting on the ground with it. But we're hoping and excited about actually the forecasting capabilities and some of the reporting improvements as well. Because again, one thing I like to tell people as a CFO, I'm communicating sometimes complex, sometimes financial information to those that have varying levels of financial acumen. Some people want to see it in a dashboard form. Some people want to see statements. Some people want to read it in a memo. Well, having these improved reporting capabilities allows me to tailor that information to various audiences. So we're excited about that. And I think it also allow us to make better data informed decisions as well.
You mentioned also something about the credit cards. Now you're using an app instead of going to the website. And you explained why that was such a big time saver?
Well, everyone does so much on their phone. Think about it. All of us have a smartphone. We're doing things on our phone. So what we're noticing is just kind of the time lag it was taking for people to get receipts uploaded and logging in and getting them coded and getting them approved, or they're losing receipts. Well, if you have it on your phone and there's an app, you can do your approvals from your phone. You don't have to wait to get in front of a computer. You can upload a receipt the minute you're in a restaurant and not worry about taking a picture, losing the receipt, then you can't find it because
this is more for expense tracking.
Expense tracking, absolutely. Expense tracking. You can then upload a receipt even if the transaction hasn't posted yet. So that way you don't have to think about it later. And so we're already starting to kind of see a quicker turnaround with approvals because people aren't waiting till they go back to a desk to log in. I can be on a train ride or a bus ride to work and I can start doing my approvals literally on my phone instead of trying to do it even on a phone through a particular a normal website.
Oh, that's
so
great.
Making things easier for people as much as possible.
Now, Jessica, you also managed to draft the council's first investment spend policy. What is that and why was it such a big deal?
Absolutely. So we have investments and we're very fortunate enough because we had profits over the years to even have investments. Well, to spend that down or to draw from it, you have to have a spend policy to do that. And it gives you kind of the rules and the guidelines of how that happens, the approval processes, et cetera. And with that, we're able now at this point, if we need to, use and spend down or draw down some of our investment earnings. But people don't realize we just can't go start spending our investments. There's a process and policy in place to guide us so that we're disciplined in how we do it and we're making value-driven decisions what we do at the same time. So very excited about that.
So what are some of the guardrails that you've got in place?
So one is how the approval process of how much we can even draw down on a given year, the approval that has to come from our investment committee and our board. Endowments have their own set of rules as well that we have to follow. And so that those guidelines are in there as well.
So you guys decide you need a new addition to your office building. Can you just do that? Or what's the process look like?
Well, part of it is we have to definitely go through the full approval process, but explaining to our investment committee why the drawdown is important and why it's needed. Now, again, we have to go through that process of discussing, does that make sense? Do we have other sources of funds to make these investments? Because again, Girl Scouts Nations Capital, we're very fortunate to be where we are from a financial standpoint, to be able to, again, make the required investments. So this is just one way of being able to do that wasn't there before.
Jessica, you've written about the 4 key traits for today's CFO. Can you say a little bit more about that?
So there's 4 traits, and I will add that I think if I had to pick the one that I think is probably I live by and I think is one of the most important is curiosity. I ask questions, and some of it comes from my former auditor background where I ask questions and may be annoying at times. But the trait, it pushes me to not stick with the status quo and to challenge it. And people know that have worked with me or team members would say, I would ask, why are we doing X, Y, Z, or why are we doing it this way? And they know the answer I hate to hear is because that's how we've always done it. I'm going to always ask. But it allows you to then explore new ways of doing things that maybe you hadn't thought of. But I also think it's important now, especially with the advancements in technology, you're going to have a curious mindset. There is no, okay, I learned how to do it and I just do it this one way and I do it for the rest of my career. how we're working now will be very different in 5 years. It'll be very different in 10 years. So I have to have that curiosity mindset. But also, I don't believe in having all the answers. I don't have to be the smartest person in the room. I just want to make sure I'm asking the right questions. That to me is important and comes with that mindset.
So what do you do when you run into somebody who their answer is, we're doing it this way because that's the way that we've always done it, and they're not really wired for that curiosity? They're not wired for change. Even if this might not be the most efficient way, it's the way that they know and they're comfortable with it. How do you pull or push that person along?
I usually start by, have we considered or have we thought of? And so I don't want to come in pushy, because some people may take it as a negative. Oh, she thinks we don't know what we're doing, and she thinks she knows everything. And I said, no, I just like to ask the question. And it's, have we considered? Have we thought about it? And usually some people may say, oh, well, we've thought about it, but didn't have the capacity, or we didn't have the financial resources. Oh, we hadn't thought about that way. And we would love to make something easier. So yes, people can be resistant or may not have that mindset, but it's something I need to model and demonstrate as well, to say it's okay to ask questions of why we've been doing something. I don't care how minuscule it may seem. Why? And sometimes leadership people have no answer other than, we've just done it that way and I've never thought about it any differently.
Mm. You mentioned before, Jessica, that you guys have 40,000 members there.
40,000 youth members, yes.
Nation's capital, the DC area. How do you attract so many girls and young women into the program? There are marketing efforts? Is it just, you've got these, what do you call them, independent troops? And they're just, you sort of arm them with like the materials to go into the schools and kind of recruit people? Or like, how does this work?
I learned, one of the things I learned when I got to Girl Scouts was people follow people. So that's normally how it kind of happens. It's, I know someone, whether I or others are a Girl Scout, and so they did it, and so their mom did it, so their child's going to do it. That's some of it. Others, it's conversation, and I'm looking for a place where my child can, explore outdoors or explore programming, and then through conversation, another parent is sharing that. Of course, there are marketing efforts. We're going into schools to show schools and parents the benefits and the impact that Girl Scout has. So there's many levers that we can pull to do that. But I learned, they say people follow people. And so for us, it's making sure we have those connections and supporting our members and our volunteers, because they're the ones that are telling the story of Girl Scouts. Mm.
You mentioned before your curiosity, one of those important principles to you. I'm curious where that curiosity comes from. Do you think, were you just born with it? Is it something sort of instilled in you by parents or previous work experiences? Any sense of why you are the way that you are?
I mean, I could start with saying what I got from my parents. So that probably plays a role in it there. I think some of it evolved over time as my work as an auditor. We have to have a curious mindset. We have to operate from an area of professional skepticism, where we trust but verify, is a lot of times what we would say in that space. But just over time, one of the learning journeys that I've had as part of my leadership growth is that curiosity mindset. Because I wonder sometimes how some leaders seem to have the vision, and they're able to sell the vision, or some of it is just, I just love to learn. Anthony, I tell people I am a nerd, and I'm proud to say I am one. We did our senior leadership team months ago did a VIA character strengths, VIA. And it talks about strengths and not necessarily weaknesses, and it numbers them. My number one was love of learning. So that mindset of just wanting to take information in and take things in and learn and grow, part of me is that's just how I am wired as well.
What were the next two? That was your number one?
The second one was humbleness. I don't remember the third, but my second was humility.
Okay.
Even with the success that I have, it's not something I go and run to tell the whole world about a lot of times. Just because I know where that's come from, is my faith and my religion, and that's how I've gotten it. So humility is really important to me.
You credit faith and religion for being a big part of why you are where you are today. Can you say more about that?
Absolutely. Absolutely. My Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. He is why I'm here. He is the one that has destined my path for me. And because of him is why I say I have what I have, and I am where I am in the life that I've had. And so I owe all the glory to him with that.
And so you've got curiosity, and then you've got humility, humbleness.
Yes.
And I'm going to guess that humility comes in helpful when, kind of like we were just talking about, you run into that situation where, you've got somebody who's sort of stuck in the way that they're doing it. You're aware enough to know that even though you already know that what you're going to suggest is a better answer, there is a diplomatic way to approach it so that you're not ruffling feathers and you're getting people to kind of join you on this ride.
Yeah, no, absolutely, Anthony. You're right in that. And I also picked it from the perspective as well. I come into, meetings with team members and I say, I don't know the answer to this. Maybe there's a way to change it or do something different, but even I don't know what that looks like. And so I want to hear from you all. I have blind spots. I have biases as well. And there's things that I'm not seeing. And so that humility is really important to me, especially in being a leader.
Mm. A lot of us are shaped, at least in part, by the challenges that we've overcome in our lives. Jessica, what's a serious challenge, whether it's personal or professional, that you've had to overcome? How did you get through it and what did you learn?
The biggest challenge that I had, and we've all had them and learned from them, I became a mom. And specifically, not just about being a mom, but taking on a caregiving role, because there are others who are taking care of other family members, whether it's parents, siblings. That while having that role, while holding a leadership role, was one of the hardest and most difficult transitions I've experienced. I tell people I am unapologetically ambitious. And having to then battle the feeling of guilt, the feeling of burnout, and moving my career forward and what I wanted to do and what I wanted to accomplish. At times, I feel like I wasn't doing enough for everyone. And stretching myself thin. It's one of the reasons why I left public accounting. I love the accounting profession. There are many great firms to work for, organizations to work for, but we still have to do more to support parents, caregivers, to be able to have a career that is successful to them, but making sure they're taking care of home and what they need to do with outside responsibilities. And so I had to really reframe how I saw success. I thought it was come in public accounting, be a partner. Well, then I looked like, well, that really maybe isn't for me. That's not how I define my success. I want to help people be the best versions of themselves. I want to be the amazing mom, sister, wife, daughter, friend. Those things are important to me. Being there for the people that I love. Being able to make sure I'm taking care of myself with the rest. And that's not always easy with young children, but I do my best. So that was a challenge for me of reframing how I saw success in the future, what it meant that others didn't define it, that I can define it for me and how I wanted it to be.
And so it's sort of in those early processes, those early days of becoming a mother, that you kind of found yourself reframing what success looks like. Like, I want to do this. I want to be a mother. I want to be successful in my career. Partner is going to take a lot of time away from the family part over here. Maybe there's a different way for me to define what success looks like. Does that sound accurate?
Absolutely. And again, having the meaning and the purpose in the work that I do. And it's one of the reasons why I transitioned to the nonprofit space, whether it's in the social space, the economic space. I just wanted to do work that I knew was having a positive impact, because I get a sense of fulfillment from that. And so like all those areas you mentioned and that sense of fulfillment was so important to me that now my path is different, but I feel good about it. Still being tiring sometimes in all of the work and juggling everything. It's not perfect, but there's a sense of harmony that I get where I have the career, I have the ambitious goals outside of work, but I'm taking care of family, what's important to me personally.
Yeah, Jessica, I'm glad that we're talking about this. I think this doesn't get enough discussion. And from a father's point of view, and when I first became a dad, it was really challenging for me. And I'll talk about my wife, which may parallel a little bit more with your experiences, but I'm curious if anything I'm going to say resonates with you or with something that you went through. I heard so many people talk about when you become a parent, there's this like instant bond, there's this feeling of incredible love, that's this connection. And I felt horrible that I didn't feel those things. What I felt was this overwhelming sense of responsibility. Like this was, it sounds bad to use the word weight, but it was a weight that was on my shoulders because I will be a parent for the rest of my life. And I am responsible for this human being incredibly so right now,
Mhm.
less so as they get older, but still, it's a job that I can't quit, kind of a thing. Does any of this ring true for you? Did you go through any of those feelings?
I did. When it comes to parenting, and no matter how many books you read, classes you take, everyone's experience is different. Whether as a woman, if you're pregnant, and that experience, the delivery, what it's like after giving birth, I mean, it is just so different. So there's no one way to have the experience or this particular feeling. But I did feel that a little bit because, again, I had this partner path, I had this track that I was on, and I felt like I'm having to choose between work and family. And I felt like that. I felt a little guilt, like, man, if I wasn't a parent, I could continue on this path. But I had to say, God said, no, that's not the path for you. I got something better. And so once I was able to take a step back and say, okay, it's not in my hands. God has a different path for me, and I got to follow it and trust it. And then the time I spent between leaving public accounting and joining a nonprofit space, the time I had with my child, my oldest child, my daughter, because I had struggles before I even had her. So it did make me more appreciative when she got here, although that guilt was a bit there. But it's tough. I mean, it is tough. I don't care if you are what parent you are. It's one of the toughest jobs, and you're right. It doesn't just go away. It's always there, and you're going to have different emotions and different experiences over time. Again, I just got out of potty training, so for me, I'm celebrating. I'm finally done with potty training. That's a big milestone for me.
That is a big milestone. Have you been able to get rid of all the diapers, or are they still there for like nighttime?
Diapers gone. Everything.
Okay, but you got you're doing pull-ups now.
Nope, they're gone.
Oh, the pull-ups are gone too. Okay,
they're all gone. I'm done.
Oh, that is a big moment. Congratulations. Yeah. And, hearing you talk reminds me a lot about my wife's experience. And I think that I really do believe it's probably harder for the mothers because, she thought that once we started having kids that she would want to stay home, work from the home, be a stay-at-home mom. That's kind of what she thought. And, as she spent some time doing that, and she felt pulled back to her career that she had gone through a lot of education, to be able to qualify for, and had put in a lot of years to get the experience to, be really very good at. Now she felt really bad about herself, like that somehow makes her a bad mother, that she loves her kids and wants to spend time with them, and she also wants a career at the same time. Like, what did that say about her that she didn't want to be at home with them all the time? And I know there was a lot of conflict there for her. And I've talked with other professional women who have gone through, similar feelings of guilt. And it sounds like, you've processed a lot of that as well.
And I will say there's no one way. For some women, they want to stay at home. I knew some that did it up through maybe kindergarten. Others did it longer. There's no one way or right or wrong way. It would make sense for the mom and the family. So I would never judge a woman who said, I'd rather go into, work, or I want to stay home for 5 years or 10 years or the whole 18 years. Never would I ever judge a mother for that. And no matter what, we're going to feel guilt. But I understand the feeling of, I took time off between leaving public accounting and going to the nonprofit space. And I was home with my daughter a lot, but I was like your wife. I want to get back into the workplace. And I had to work through putting up the boundaries and communicating to employers what I needed as a mom. And I don't even like to use the word working mom or working mother, because as a mom, you're working. You just may decide to work outside of the home, part-time, full-time, seasonally, whatever that looks like for you. So I don't like to use the word working mom, just because all mothers, being a mom is work. It's just if you decide to work outside of the home.
That was something that a friend helped me with years ago, how to sort of phrase that question, are you working? Well, if you're a mom, 100% you're doing a lot of work.
Yes.
Are you working outside the home is sort of a better way to phrase it. Just sort of like in general conversation. Hey, what's going, you had a baby, great. What's going on? Like, are you working outside the home? Are you staying home? Would you agree that that's a better way to kind of approach that topic?
Absolutely. But I didn't understand it until becoming a mother. And I heard someone say that as a mom, I work. It's just, I may decide to work outside of the home. And I use air quotes even then, because you could be remote and work inside the house and still be home. Especially now with, how many of us are working now. And again, I've seen some women that do it on a part-time basis, a seasonal basis, full-time. There's no one way to do it. It's what is best for you and your family. And is when we just shouldn't judge each other if they decide to stay home, not stay home, work part-time, full-time, because it's what them and their family needs and what makes the most sense for them.
Jessica, did you feel like that guilt was coming all from internal from you, or did you feel judgment from anybody on the outside?
Internal to me.
Yeah.
I would say internal to me. The village I had, whether it was, my mother-in-law, my mom and coworkers, they were like, if you want to take a step back, it's okay. And if you don't, it's okay. I put that pressure on myself, and that's where the guilt came from.
You've mentioned curiosity already, but aside from that, what would you define as your superpower, Jessica?
Ooh, my love of learning. That is the number one superpower, is that. But if I had to pick a second one, and I'm still on this particular journey, is the authenticity and empathy, or other two. It took time for me to really feel comfortable being who I am and showing up how I do in the workplace. And I'll give you an example. I didn't wear my hair like this for a while. I usually wore it straight because of how some people perceived, an African-American woman with braids versus straighter hair. It took a while to feel comfortable doing that. Now, after having my kids, this is so much easier to maintain with all the craziness I deal with at home. But this is who I am. And I feel a lot more comfortable showing up, being who I am. And I know that helps others as well. But other piece is empathy. And I would say that especially in the last few years, with people dealt with COVID, being sick, losing family members, taking care of family members, taking care of family members who have long COVID. You're trying to be a parent at home, but you're still working at home and trying to teach your kids second grade math and algebra. People were just going through it, and people really did need to have an ear to be able to vent and be able to share their struggles. And so it's something I have worked to improve on, is being that ear and thinking about people first in things, and not processes and technology, but the people and how decisions are made, how they impact people. Is really another superpower that I'm continuing to grow and work on.
You mentioned your hair and not being comfortable to wear it in braids before. What was the concern there?
Unfortunately, there was some bias that is, and I would say has been and is out there.
Like it's wearing braids for an African American. It's too black. Is that what the concern? Okay.
It was not seen as professional to wear your hair, and for African American women in certain styles, what we call more natural styles. Whether I have a short hairdo, a mini fro, I may have the braids. It just wasn't seen as professional, unfortunately. And so for a while, I did not wear my hair that way. But after I had kids and know the convenience of wearing my hair in this fashion, and I love how it looks, I show up like this. I take pictures like this. This is how I show up, and it's authentically me.
And so did you just have to give yourself permission to do that, or did somebody else kind of make you more comfortable to do that?
I'd have to say a little bit of both. But part of it was me after becoming a mom. How can I make life a bit easier for myself? Mm-hmm. And one thing was my hair. Instead of going to a hair salon every 2 weeks, I get the braids. They last longer. I can wake up and go. It's less work. And especially when I became a new mom, that was a game changer for me right there. But also starting to see others wearing it. And I'm like, no, I can be professional and be seen as professional with my hair in different ways. And some days I may have it out in a ponytail. Some days I have the braids in. I like to switch it up sometimes.
Has anybody ever made a comment?
No. Most people say it's beautiful. I have people of all different backgrounds and races say, oh, wow, I love the color in it. I love the style. It's beautiful.
That's what
some people, part of it was just me and how I felt, and what I think society, some of the signals that society has sent before.
I get that. How about some daily practices that kind of help you along, Jessica, whether it's to start your day or keep you on track as the day moves along?
The biggest one, and again, with my crazy schedule with work and young kids and all over the place, it's prayer. That's the one thing I can easily make sure I take time for at the beginning of the day or even in the evening before I go to bed, just showing, my Lord and Savior the gratitude for being able to wake up in the morning, that my family made it through the day. We all made it home safely. And I, made it through the day despite how difficult the day may have been, because we all have those tough days, but just showing the gratitude. And so prayer is the one thing that is a constant Some of the other things, I wish I had more time to meditate and work out. It's let us easy with my schedule. I'm going to get there one day. I'm working on it. But that's the number one thing for me. It keeps me grounded
Does
as
prayer
well.
happen in the morning, throughout the day?
It's usually in the morning and the evening, because it's usually I can get some of the silence before I get my kids up in the morning. And then the evenings, once I can get them to bed, again, I can have that quiet time.
I want to go back to sort of talking about your team there at Girl Scouts. How many folks report to you directly?
Directly 6, but indirectly through the chain of reporting is about 25.
Okay. As you think about, you've been at much bigger companies before, as you think about sort of how to build your team from, recruiting them, through the hiring process, once you've got folks that are good, and how to retain them, what are some things, some strategies that you've tried that you have found success with?
You got to get to know people. You have to get to know people, know what's important to them, what motivates them, what their pet peeves are, understanding how they want to be recognized, how they see growth, and then taking that feedback along the way. Again, I haven't always made it right and perfect. I had an employee who left at one point, and I could have did a better job in how I recognized them, because I wasn't recognizing them the way they wanted to be recognized and appreciated.
Oh, sort of like their love language, if you will.
Love language for work. There's actually a book. I can't remember the title of the book, but there are love languages for work, just like we have them in personal relationships, and understanding it looks different to everyone. And that some of the driving motivation behind some people it's money, some people it's purpose. Some people share more than others, but taking the time to get to know each person individually and showing that you care. I mean, that right there is very important. And you have to be intentional when you do it. You have to be intentional, but you also have to be authentic in it. What you don't want to have is that have communication or coming off in a way where people don't they don't really care how my weekend went. They don't really care what's going on in my life. No, I do care, because that actually shows up at work. Surprisingly, it actually does.
When you ask the question, actually listen for the answer.
Exactly. And just listen, not giving advice. Sometimes it's literally just listening. There are times where people have shared things and I say, you know what, I can relate because I've been through that. Where others just say, I'm just here to listen if you want to talk. That's it. I don't have advice. I'm just here to be an ear. But at the same time saying, let me know what you need. And some people, it's, I need to take off time for this. I need to do this. I need to switch the schedule for the day. That's what I need to manage something I'm dealing with at the moment.
Boy, that is such a good reminder, even for me to hear, because I joke about this with my wife sometimes, where she comes to me and she wants to unload about her day, and I go into fix-it mode, right? I am like, oh, well, here are the 3 things that you should do to address this. And I've gotten just a little bit better at this, Jessica, but not great at it. And saying, okay, wait, do you just want me to listen? Do you want advice? Do you want a hug? Those are, and maybe the hug is less appropriate in a business setting, depending on how close you are with folks. But I think it's oftentimes helpful to sort of go into a conversation laying out those options. Am I here, as an ear, like an ear/shoulder, or are you looking for advice? So that, talking about those love languages, you're kind of giving back that person what it is that they're looking for in the moment.
No, absolutely. Sometimes it really is. I'm just an ear. I'm here to listen. And again, people share varying degrees of their personal life. I have some people that work with me that they very private, and that's perfectly fine. But I just express to them, I am here if you need me. And I leave it at that. But others will come share every life story in every moment. And that's fine too. I want to celebrate your milestones. I want to celebrate your successes. I want to hear about your challenges. So by doing that, that's how you have a good team of people that are committed and are engaged.
Jessica, if you were to recommend a resource to our listeners, be it a book, a podcast, a course, what would it be? Something that's been helpful to you that you think others could get value from?
The one that I have to bring up, and I got this book when I became manager at Grant Thornton, promoted at Grant Thornton, and they gave all of the new managers a book called What Got You Here Won't Get You There by Marshall Goldsmith, I think his name is correctly. And it's interesting for anyone transitioning from a individual contributor role to a supervisory role is so important. In public accounting, we always said your two biggest or most difficult jumps or promotions are to manager and partner. And the reason I share that, when I have shared it for many years, is that what made you successful as an individual contributor is very different with what makes you successful in a management role, because then it becomes way more about people. Less of the day-to-day tasks, but you're dealing with personnel matters, people, and there's a lot of complexity within that. And even how success is defined when you're an individual contributor versus someone in a supervisory role. And so I definitely recommend that book for someone making certain jumps or leaps within their career. It's something that has stuck with me and I share all the time.
This is interesting. I'd be kind of curious to get your take on this, because not everybody who is good at a operational role will also be good in a managerial role, or they may not even enjoy it. Mm-hmm. And so it's kind of important to understand that about yourself, that if you get to sort of the top tier of the operational rung, and that is where you're comfortable and you're happy and you don't want to kind of step into more authority, then that's okay. What is maybe one thing, either from your direct experience or from that book, or both, that you could pass along to the audience? Here's one thing in particular. If you decide that this is something you want to get from here to there, you want to level up, that would be a good piece of advice for folks.
I would say understanding what it means to be in a management role. There seems to be, for some people, it's like a black box, and it really isn't. But it's having conversations with those that are in a management role, job shadowing them, truly understand it's not just a title. It's not just about the money. There's a lot more responsibility. There's risk that comes with that as well. And taking the time to understand what that is, to then really make an informed decision. Is management where I want to be? And maybe not now, maybe it's something I want to do later. And understanding what that change is. It's something I learned going through public accounting. Like, do I really want to be a partner? As I learned more of what that meant from a risk perspective, financial perspective, I'm like, I don't know if this is really for me. And I think by having those conversations, you're, again, making an informed decision for yourself instead of leaping into something because of the status or the title or the money, not realizing it wasn't the move I should have made or even made now. It may not be your time yet.
For people who have been involved with Girl Scouts, Nation's Capital, are there any exciting changes that are coming that they may not recognize, that you're particularly excited about putting in place?
Well, one thing we should be excited about, Anthony, this is a great thing. We are hosting the national convention next July 2026. So every 3 years, we have a national council session where all Girl Scouts and youth members, adult members, all the team members, staff members come together. It's more of a part of it is a governance meeting that takes place with our national board of directors, but there's also programming, et cetera, for our Girl Scouts. And it moves to different councils or different cities about every 3 years. And it's coming to DC in 2026. So Girl Scouts, we are going to take over, and I mean take over, Washington, D.C.
Okay.
You're going to have thousands of Girl Scouts that are going to be there celebrating what we do, celebrating who we are. And there's going to be a lot of exciting things coming up over the course of the next year. I can't go into those yet and share those at a lead up to that. But we're very excited to be able to host convention and what that means, and highlighting specifically not even just Girl Scouts worldwide, but also specifically in the Washington, D.C. metro area with our Girl Scouts in Maryland, Washington, Northern Virginia, and the Eastern Panhandle of West Virginia. We're going to show up and show out and show the world who we are.
Oh, I like that. That sounds powerful. What are the specific dates for that? You said 2026.
I think it's the 22nd to the 26th of July. I hope I got it right.
Okay. Well, I'm sure somebody can go online and Google it.
Oh, absolutely. The registrations recently opened up, so come on down to DC.
Jessica, here's an interesting question for you. Sometimes we all make mistakes, right? But personal lives and our careers. And I have the tendency anyways, when I make a mistake, I really beat myself up over it. Mm-hmm. Sometimes as I look in the rearview mirror at a mistake that happened a while ago, I can actually find gratitude in my heart for that,
Mm.
because in a weird way, it actually steered me in a different direction. It kept me from going down a wrong path. It helped me open up a new door, or it taught me a lesson in a really powerful way that I was, able to leverage
Mm.
in the future. You have any of those moments that you can think of where there was a past mistake that now you look back at and you're grateful for?
Oh, yeah, that's almost every mistake, because I really believe you learn from them, whether personally or professionally. Of course, I've sat back on how I've handled myself in different difficult situations with difficult people. I say all the time, as long as humans are around, we're always going to have difficulty with colleagues and coworkers, etc. Um, but I've had to learn how to better manage my emotions during difficult conversations. That I'm listening better and doing that. Um, so I probably say that's one of the biggest parts of my journey when it comes to even the people aspect. I've talked about people before, but not always with people that, oh, Jessica's great or they're great. Even in working with people where we really don't see eye to eye. Sometimes we have disagreements. I don't run from conflict. I think conflict is natural. I mean, we have it in our families. We're going to have it professionally. It's just how it's handled and how it's addressed is what's important. Because it's always going to be there. That doesn't change. And I do beat myself up a lot. I can get down on myself because it's, why did I think of this, or why did I say it that way? And it takes some time to kind of get over that initial cringe,
Yeah.
to be able to say, okay, what do I take from this? What do I learn from this? Whether it's something I can improve for myself, but also it's a story that I can share with others as well.
I think I may have mentioned in this interview, I'm a father to two young boys. They're 9 and 11. And this is a lesson that I struggle to figure out how to teach to them. And maybe their brain development, it's just too early on, sort of that ability to look back at, not doing well on a test or not performing well in a sporting event or a spelling bee or what it, and, using that as an inflection point to for change. It's like, okay, well, that didn't go well. Could you have prepared differently, or and then they instantly turn to what you were just describing there, where they just get hard on themselves, and I'm stupid and I'm an idiot, and I didn't. And it's interesting for me to sort of observe that thought process, because I think, down inside, we're all still little kids, right? And so when you see it more raw and exposed coming through in them, it's sort of a reflection back on, who we are as big kids, as adults, and what sort of our natural tendencies are that maybe we've done a better job of masking or talking ourselves out of. And so, you're a mother of, younger kids, it sounds like, but I don't know, do you think about things in that way in terms of like human psychology and noticing what goes on in your kids and sort of how that translates into you or your coworkers?
Well, that's a great story, Anthony. I'm starting to see it, especially in my oldest child, my daughter, who is 6. And whether it's she didn't do well and she's working on a homework assignment and I don't get it and I don't understand it and I don't know, and I can see the frustration building. Or she does gymnastics. I could have did this backflip better, and I say, "Well, mommy couldn't do the backflip, so you did better than I could." But seeing how hard she is on herself, I'm like, "Wow!" It shows up in such an early age, and so sometimes I have to remind myself, "All right, Jessica, you just had a conversation with your daughter 2 days ago about telling her that it's okay. You may have a bad day and things happen." I have to remind myself of that same conversation that I would have just had with my daughter 2 days before.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I'll get so frustrated with my kids because I'm like, don't be so hard on yourself.
Yep.
And then I have to step back and be like, well, that's what I do. That's sort of human nature coming through. So Jessica, I've just got one more question for you, but before I ask it, I want to do 2 things. First, I'm going to invite all listeners to just take a moment, pause, and go hit the follow button on your favorite podcast app. We've had a great interview today here with Jessica McLean from Girl Scouts Nation's Capital. And I want you to continue to get more wonderful content like this. Jessica, I also want to let people know the best way either to get in touch with you or to continue to follow your story. What would that be?
Follow me on LinkedIn. I love LinkedIn. I'm there all the time. You could find Jessica E. McLean. I have a lot of letters behind my last name. You could see my Girl Scout uniform as well. But that's how you could follow me and know what's going on. And I'd love to connect with people.
Love it. And we'll include a link to that in the show notes. So last question for you. Jessica, you and I reconnect a year from now and you're celebrating. You're excited. There's this one thing. What's that one thing that you're celebrating?
One thing, it's simple as it sounds, being here on this earth and being healthy. I lost my mother-in-law back at the end of last year, and it really just felt like, wow, how quickly life can just go, and that day-to-day mundane and work and kids and this and that. And just celebrating the fact that I'm here, my family's here, hopefully, and we're healthy. That is a huge celebration in itself.
I love it. The beauty is in the simplicity of it.
Yeah.
Jessica McLean from Girl Scout Nation's Capital, I want to be the first to thank you for sharing both your time and your story with us today. I really appreciate it.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate being on the platform. I'm very honored and humble as well.
Folks, that's a wrap on another episode of the Inspired Stories podcast. Thanks for learning with us today.